As we get older, there is one thing that is more vital than everything else to maintain your health. And in today's video, I'm going to reveal what it is and how to ensure it happens. If you don't know who I am, my name is Harlow. I'm the Over-Fifties specialist physio here at HT Physio in Farnham. And today I'm going to be revealing the one vital thing as you get older. Now, the vital thing I'm talking about, and I see this time and time again, I'm reminded of it every single day, is to maintain your muscle mass. It's so crucial to maintain your muscle mass as you get older for so many reasons. We're going to talk about some of those reasons today and how to maintain your muscle mass as you age. Now, it's been shown in studies that people over the age of 50 tend to lose roughly 1% of their total muscle mass every single year. Okay, and that is a big problem. 1% doesn't sound like much, but if you stack that over 3-4 decades, that is a significant amount of muscle loss. We call this sarcopenia. It happens naturally as we get older for a number of reasons. Partly it's because the muscle mass does decrease slightly in quality in terms of the nutrients inside it. The second reason is we tend to be less active. The third reason is most people are not doing the right things to maintain it. And the fourth reason is we do suffer with changes to our hormones over time that make it more difficult to build or keep muscle. But that being said, if we allow this 1% muscle loss to happen year on year on year, we're going to end up with some problems. One of the problems is we're going to have an increased risk of falling as we get older. Now, falls are catastrophic for people over the age of 50, especially people who have got osteoporosis or osteopenia, which means thin bones, because it means you're going to be more likely to suffer a fracture. People with more muscle mass have less risk of falls because they're stable, they're strong, they tend to be less in pain, which means that they stay on their feet for longer, and if they do trip, they tend to be able to catch themselves. The second problem with loss of muscle mass is that people without muscle tend to have more pain than people with muscle mass, especially people who are a bit older. Now, your muscles, they aren't just there for show, they're there to protect the joints. So if you don't have strong muscles, many of the joints in your body are unprotected, they're subjected to stress and strain, which means arthritis is more likely, tendon problems are more likely, and general wear and tear and strain on the joints as we move becomes more likely too. So people with more muscle have less pain, and that's another reason why it's so important to keep it. The third reason why it's so important to keep your muscle mass is that people who lose too much muscle become dependent on others. They lose their independence at home. Now, I've met people who have a house with stairs and they've lost so much muscle mass that they no longer feel confident climbing the stairs. And that's no way to live in your own home. You should be confident getting around. So make sure you maintain muscle mass, because if you don't, your independence is at risk. The fourth reason that it's bad to lose muscle is your metabolism will suffer. People who have more muscle mass have a quicker metabolism. They burn more calories just at rest. If you put someone with plenty of muscle mass next to someone without very much, you'd find that the person with lots of muscle mass burns much more calories just sitting there than the person without, which means this person can eat more, yep, they can treat themselves more, but it also means their metabolism is healthier. So they're less at risk of metabolic disease, and they tend to be less at risk of things like diabetes as well. The fifth reason why it's bad to lose muscle mass is you have an increased risk of illness. And if you get ill, the consequences might be more severe. Okay, so if you have lots of muscle mass and then you become ill, what happens is your body will start to eat away at your reserves to help you to heal. That's fine, you've got plenty of spare muscle, so even if you lose a little bit, you still come out the other side okay. Contrast that with someone who's incredibly skinny, they don't have anything on them, they've got no muscle mass to draw on. When they get ill, they tend to get iller. They also don't have the reserves to burn off, so the body's struggling to find things to break down for energy. And when they get better again, they're so weak, they have a hard time moving around. It's also been shown that people who have more muscle mass tend to have a better immune system as well. So they're more resilient to getting problems. So they're unlikely to get the same germs or the same effects from those germs as people who are very weak, and they tend to do better afterwards. And the sixth thing that tends to correlate quite well to a loss of muscle mass is also a loss of bone mass. So if you're losing muscle mass, you're probably losing bone mass as well and putting yourself at risk of osteoporosis and osteopenia. Now these things are separate, but there is a correlation. So people as they get older, they lose both things, but the things that help you regain your muscle are also some of the things that help you regain your bone mass. Okay, so if you're worried about osteoporosis, the stuff in this video is also going to help as well. So that's all the doom and gloom. That is why it's really bad to lose muscle and why we should avoid it. But let's talk about 5 things that are going to help you regain lost muscle and remain strong in your 50s and beyond. Now, the first important thing to say is you're not going to regain lost muscle mass with cardiovascular exercise or walking alone. Those are fantastic exercises, don't get me wrong, but we need something different if we're going to regain muscle. We need to be moving our body against resistance. Now, resistance doesn't necessarily mean you have to go to a gym and pick up dumbbells and barbells. It might just mean moving against your body weight. So things like sit to stands, or things like picking things up from the floor at home, or gardening, picking things, digging things up with a shovel also counts as resistance work. But we must be moving the body against resistance. So resistance could be external weights like dumbbells. It could be resistance bands, which I have exercise videos on. It could be just moving against your body weight like sit to stand, squats, things like that. But when we're choosing exercises, what we want to prioritize are things called compound exercises. So compound exercises are things that involve multiple muscle groups and multiple joints. So for example, a squat is a compound movement because we're using the hips, the knees, the ankles, and the lower back as well. So it works lots of different places at once. And the reason that's so good is it burns more calories, but it also gives you more bang for your buck in terms of the time you're spending. So you get more from a shorter time investment. Now contrast that with things like the bicep curl. This is an isolation exercise. So even though it will give you a stronger bicep, that's all it does. Okay, so we're much better off using our time on compound exercises and leaving the isolation exercises just as a nice to have if we have time. 2 of my favorite compound exercises are the squat and the deadlift. You don't need to have a gym to do these. You can use your body weight or a resistance band. The squat is when you have either weight across your back holding it here, or you're holding weights in your hands and you squat down and back up. The deadlift is when you have something on the floor and you keep your back straight and you squat down, pick it up to a full height, and then you drop it back down again. So those are great exercises if you want to choose a couple of compound lifts. Those are probably my 2 favorites. So now we understand we need to use resistance exercise to get stronger. How do we go about building a plan? Well, the second tip I've got for you is to try and work every muscle group for 6 sets every week as a minimum. Now, a set is a set of repetitions all done in one go. So you might do 10 in a row, and then when the muscle gets tired, you rest, and that is 1 set completed. Now what you're going to try and do is 6 sets per muscle group per week. And you might be thinking, well, we've got a lot of muscle groups. How am I going to fit that much in? Well, that's why we need our compound exercises, because when we're doing the squat, you get 6 sets for your quads, you get 6 sets for your glutes, you get 6 sets for your lower back as well. So we've ticked off a number of different muscle groups just from 1 exercise. Whereas if you use the bicep curl, you're only ticking off 6 sets for the biceps. So picking compound exercises and then choosing ones that will give you 6 total sets per muscle group per week. And remember, that is a minimum. You can go above that. I try and do something along the lines of 15 sets per week per muscle group if I can get the time to do it. But 6 is enough to maintain and improve, especially if you're not someone who's used to using this type of exercise. So 6 sets per muscle group per week. Give that a try. It's great exercise or a great prescription for many people. Now, the third tip I've got for you is to ensure adequate protein intake. Now, protein is a macronutrient that is made up of amino acids, which are broken down in the gut and then fed to the muscles. They're almost like our building blocks to build new muscle tissue. If you just did loads of resistance training but you didn't eat any protein, it would be very difficult to gain muscle mass because you're sending the builders to work, but they've got no bricks to lay on the house. So you're going to end up with a good signal, which is your resistance training, but no materials to build the muscle back up. So therefore, what we need to do is ensure the body has enough material, and the material is protein. So you can get protein from meat and dairy, those kinds of things, but you can also get it from soy, you can get it from beans, you can get it from nuts. There's lots of vegetarian sources of protein as well. Now, the issue with protein is people cannot decide how much is enough. Now, the research is kind of equivocal, so some people say one amount, some people say another. It seems to fall in the range of 1 gram per kilogram of body weight up to 1 gram per pound of body weight for most people. Now, obviously, if you're trying to choose protein intake, it's wise to consult your doctor or dietitian if you're not sure. But 1 gram per kilogram, for me, I weigh 86 kilograms, so that would be 86 grams of protein. To me, that doesn't sound like enough, okay? That would not probably be enough for me. So I shoot further up the scale, 1 gram per pound, which ends up something like 190 odd grams of protein per day. I probably hit 150 to 160 each day. That's a normal day for me. And for most people over the age of 50, shooting for something around the upper end of their range would be better. It is a myth that we don't need protein. We absolutely do need it. It's vital to improve your muscle strength and size. So there's a range that you can hit. Don't panic if you're not eating the upper end of the range, but inside that range seems to be the credible amount that we need to build more muscle mass. So make sure you're getting adequate protein intake. What that looks like for you is going to be totally different. You can do it in a couple of servings, or you can do it in multiple servings throughout the day. It's whatever works for you. Just find a way to get more into your diet, and you will improve your muscle mass as long as you're doing the right things. The fourth tip I've got for you for maintaining and improving your muscle mass is to use progressive overload. Now, progressive overload is a fancy term for saying that we're doing an exercise until it feels hard and we're making it tougher for ourselves each time we do it. Okay, that's the ideal world. So let's say I'm doing a squat. The first time I go into the gym, I put 50 kilos on the bar. I can squat 10 repetitions and then I get tired in my legs. So I know that I can do 50 kilos for 10 reps. Now, what I'm going to do next week when I go in is I'm going to try and put another 1 kilogram on each side. So now I've got 52 kilos and I'm still going to try and hit 10. And each week I'm going to try and incrementally increase the weight on the bar so I get stronger. If you go to the gym and you do 50 kilos every single time over and over and over and over again, yes, initially you would feel better, but then you'd plateau because the body hasn't got a new challenge. It's not getting any better. It's just staying at a level. So every time you go in, your goal should be to try and increase either the weight or the number of repetitions or the number of sets for at least one exercise each time you go in. It's a good challenge to have for yourself, and you'll feel like you're improving and you'll see the results in the mirror and feel better as a result. And then the fifth tip I've got for you to maintain that muscle mass is to keep being generally active. People over the age of 50 who sit at home most of the time, even if they're going to the gym a few times a week, they're not going to do as well as someone who goes to the gym and goes out for walks and does the garden and goes out and plays with the grandkids and goes down to the beach and has a day on the beach, because that person is active. They're using the muscles in their legs and their core and their back and their upper body to lift things. They are using those muscles, and even though it's not resistance training, that activity massively complements resistance training. It will burn more calories, it will keep your metabolism higher, and it will also send a signal to the muscles that we need them to be strong, we need them to be stable, and as a result, you'll be healthier. So those are the 5 tips I've got for you. Hopefully that's all made sense. If you've enjoyed this video, leave me a comment below. These are such vital things to remember. I'm reminded of them every day by the people I treat. So I hope that's been useful. If you've enjoyed the video, you can get more from me by picking up a copy of my book. It's called Thriving Beyond 50. You can find it on Amazon using the link below. There's loads more info about this kind of thing inside. So hopefully if you pick it up, you enjoy it. Anyway, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you on the next video.